Robert. How are
What's up,
you?
man? How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you after a long time.
You too, my friend. It's been a while. You hearing me
We
okay?
had our first talk on the. Yeah, everything's good. Everything's good.
Cool.
Can you hear me and see me well?
You're great, bud.
Awesome. Your video is a little pixelated for some reason, but I think it should adjust itself later on, I think.
Copy
It's
that.
okay. Awesome. All right. So thank you so much for taking time and doing this talk once again.
You
We
bet,
had
man.
our first talk on 22nd of April, and I'd like to tell everybody that Robert was my first guest on the Fit Geek show, and ever since I changed the name of the show, I changed the way I talk, and I invited so many guests after that. So I appreciate your joining me again.
You bet. My pleasure, bud.
Thank you. And it's 3:15 a.m. there. It's really
It
early.
is. Yeah, it is. It's an early
Wow.
one. This is normal
Awesome. Yeah.
operating time for me though, so not a problem.
Wow. Wow. That's great. I can only dream of waking up this early. Right. So
I get done early so I can hang with my kids and we get the whole afternoon together, so it's a good
okay.
thing.
Oh, nice, nice. All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the Fit Geek Show. Today we have Robert Linkul with us, all the way from Sacramento, California. He is the owner of Be Stronger Fitness, which is a fitness facility dedicated only for older adults. Yes, that's the facility in the background.
Yeah.
And Robert has been successful in his journey as a trainer and a specialist for the elderly population. He has also been awarded as the he's also been named as the Personal Trainer of the Year by NSCA in 2012, and he's consistently working with the NSCA and producing very good content and articles. I'm aware of that in Personal Trainers Quarterly and sorts of that those sort of articles. So today he's going to address us and he's going to tell us as to what goes behind training elderly adults. And before that, Robert, would you please share with us your journey of fighting cancer?
Yeah, well, I like to start that story. People always, kind of comment. They're like, "Oh, congratulations on being a cancer survivor." There's two different kinds of cancer. You have cancer that requires treatment and cancer that does
Mm-hmm.
not. And I was blessed to not have to go through chemo. You don't have to go through treatment like that. It's a whole different
Okay.
ballgame. So I had a carcinoid tumor in my lung, and my entire lung had to be taken out. That was it's a major surgery. I had two ribs removed. I had my lat completely cut through, my intercostals. I mean, I have a huge scar, an 18-inch scar on my left side, and still deal with nerve pain and damage from that. And it's been 11 years. But that was a major surgery. So I don't really call myself a cancer survivor. I call myself a surgery survivor because that was a big one. But blessed to not have to go through chemo. Going into that situation, I learned a lot about chemotherapy, as that might be an option that I have to go through. And I've had clients that have gone through it. I've had family members go through that. Lost my oldest brother to cancer, to leukemia. And
Okay.
so it was really something that I obviously did not want to do. I feel very blessed that I didn't have to go through that. And then 9 months
Mm.
after that, we found another tumor in my thyroid, and I had to have that taken out. So two
Okay.
times, luckily I didn't have to go through the treatments, but quite an experience. It's definitely something that you remember when somebody tells you you have cancer, and you do everything you can moving forward to take care of yourself and to be in the best situation possible. But that experience, plus hip replacements and back surgery and
Mm.
carpal tunnel and all kinds of other issues that I've been dealing with, kind of give me an insight to what it's like to work with vulnerable populations and to work with the elderly. And being a younger individual, I started in the industry and when I was 19, and I've been working with older pops as my primary area of focus since I was 25. So I've got 15 years into this demographic and can connect with them on many different levels, we've shared the same experiences.
Awesome. I mean, it's really inspirational to hear this because people who usually go through these many surgeries and these many ailments, and even if they recover from it, they still are remain scarred and they don't take up fitness. I've seen many times.
Yeah.
And you've gone through so much stuff, and then you are also inspiring elderly people. You're inspiring many other people. You're also training personal trainers, because you're also a world-renowned presenter, and you help personal trainers increase their business. Is that right?
Business and mostly their training ability of older pops. It's
Really?
like the two
Hmm.
biggest concerns trainers have working with older populations is they don't know what to do or how to do it. They're worried about hurting
Hmm.
people. So I've built an
Hmm.
entire business around that. It's called trainingtheolderadult.com, and that is the primary focus of that online education business is to teach trainers how to work with older pops, how to help them improve. That ultimately, helps their business, improves their business. And then, a lot of the articles you mentioned before with the NSCA, they're career-driven
Yes.
articles on how to conduct yourself like a professional. How to showcase your certifications, how to improve your profit margins, how to build a referral business program that our industry is 99% referral based, word of mouth based. So how
Hmm.
do you how
Hmm.
do you build those kinds of long-term business strategies that really breed success into our business? It's a hard industry to stay in. There's a lot of trainers that come and they make it for a year or 18 months and then they wash out and they're off doing something else. And we see that turnover like 9 out of 10 times. So it's always been
Hmm.
my efforts to get back into this profession, get back to this industry to teach others how to be able to stay here long term, because frankly our industry needs it, our world needs it. The more people showcasing this style of training and helping others, the better.
That's completely true. And Robert, my next question would be, what is the difference between training the general population and the elderly population? What are some key points that you would like to tell the trainers?
I think the biggest difference I see, and when I speak about general pops, I don't mean to. There's nothing wrong with training old or regular populations versus the older pops, but when you see the effect you can have on an older individual,
Hmm.
you can see someone that can't walk on their own, can't sit to stand on their own, can't do any of their ADLs, their activities of daily living, walking,
Hmm.
transferring, dressing, toileting, eating. If you can assist someone with improving those abilities and truly have a life-changing effect on them versus getting them to lose some body fat or increase their vertical jump, which are all important things to training. It's just like this training outcome with the older population is life altering, not performance altering, right? And it's just a
Hmm.
different level of connection. Like having been there, I've been bedridden, I've been in a wheelchair, I've had to go through some of these experiences that I know for me were just for a moment, just until I could rehab out of it. But for a lot of these older populations,
Hmm.
that's their reality. That's where they are now. They can no longer
Hmm.
walk, stand, run, jump, and so if I can help them get back to golfing, help their back not hurt so they can sleep at night, help them, improve their abilities to play with their grandkids, like those kind of outcomes, the life changing, the ability to have an effect on someone like that is exactly like the bottom line of what drives me. And so with that kind of being said, the difference is the style of training reflects that. That's really what we're training. Our program is called the ADL program because we're training them for life movement, not for performance, not for fat
Hmm.
loss. And those things might improve along the way, but we're really looking at like, what are you going to do on a daily basis? How can I improve that ability? What functionalities do you no longer have, or maybe you feel like you're losing, and how can I improve those? And this can be a 50-year-old that was in a major accident. This can be a 93-year-old who's never trained a day in her life, right? I mean, we get people
Hmm.
all across the board, and with many different limitations and different injuries, we have to learn, how to help them through that, because nobody's beyond help. I mean, we can improve from this moment forward. We can improve no matter what. It just depends on how we're going to implement that, how we're going to, pursue helping them achieve that goal. Everybody's going to be at a different level.
Awesome. And I remember, well, before we step into that,
Sure.
I completely agree with what you're saying. Is because the reason why I contacted you first in April was because my first ever job after my master's was with the elderly population in a retirement facility. And um, when I was working with them, not one person was interested in an end goal of becoming more fit. Their end goal was always something related to more ADLs or functionality, or somebody wants to play with their grandkids, or somebody wants to do some gardening and stuff like that. So I completely agree. And so moving on to the next part, I remember you had mentioned a few components that you include in your training, which are important modalities. So could you please elaborate on that, which are
Sure.
important for the elderly
Yeah,
population?
there's five of them, and we address these five in every workout, every opportunity I have to work with a client. So the first one is the hinge. It's probably the most commonly performed movement on a daily basis. The average person will
Hmm.
perform 100 of those a day. The active person will do hundreds hinges a day, from picking up your shoes
Hmm.
to picking up your kids to picking up a gym bag to all the weights you pick up. The hinge is like our
Hmm.
biggest priority. The second one is rowing, and we will row anywhere at different angles, different heights, anything where we're pulling some kind of tension towards us, we're going to consider that a row.
Hmm.
And that's the second action that occurs mostly, through the day. Actions that are kind of reflecting back, knowing that so much happens in front of us, and we do so much forward flexion and gearing and reaching and pushing and action in front of us. We want to be able to row and get the backside of the body strong enough to counter that throughout our day.
Hmm.
Then the other three are kind of even across the board. So first priority is hinge, then row, and then we have split stance. So from gait control to split squats to step ups to pushing prowlers and pulling sleds, anything where they're splitting their feet and engaging either their body or against another load of some sort. We have an overhead action, and we consider it that rather than saying pressing or pulling from overhead, because every individual we're going to encounter is going to be different. And we have clients that
Hmm.
they have frozen shoulders and they can't press overhead. It turns into an incline bench press rather than a vertical press, right?
Hmm.
So we'll work
Hmm.
with different leverages and different actions to get them to pull from overhead, to train the action overhead, and then eventually build up the strength and the mobility to be able to press overhead. So for whatever that individual is, the action of overhead will be our fourth one. And then the loaded carry. Being able to pick up weight, transfer it somewhere else, set it down correctly, or take weight from somewhere, transfer it, put it back somewhere else. Those five components, I feel like, are reflecting of our daily life actions, but are the most applicable movements for our aging populations. And it kind of covers the full spectrum of things that they're going to experience on a daily basis, but also the movements that I'd say they're most susceptible to hurting themselves in if they don't do it right. So we need to train those
Hmm.
actions a lot. And then you throw on top of that all the different limitations they can have: bad back, bad shoulders, hips, necks, knees, replacements. A lot of our clients will get AC or clavicle breaks or AC separations. And when you're 80, they don't
Hmm.
fix that. They just leave it alone. So you now have to kind of manipulate your life through this injury, right? So how are we going to
Hmm.
address all of these injuries on those five components, on those daily life movements? It becomes rather complex, to how you're going to build a program for someone and help them improve, because we don't just spin our wheels. I mean, I want to make improvement every day. So how do we do that,
Hmm.
knowing they have limitations, knowing these movements have to be achieved every day, and to continue to make progress with them without going backwards? It can be very challenging, but that's the name of the game.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that detailed information. Um, I know that this video is going to be viewed by a lot of personal trainers. Some of them are pursuing the CPG certification, some of them are already trainers, and they're looking forward to some advice. And there are some fitness enthusiasts who will be watching it later as well. So everybody has some or the other elderly, family member in the family. So it's just good to advise them about these modalities.
My
And
pleasure, man.
yes. And when it comes to the Indian population, uh, physical therapy is more seen as an elderly people's training modality rather than fitness training, because elderly people are scared of lifting weights, and I assume there's not enough good trainers that have worked with elderly population. So that's the reason. So, what do you think as to how physiotherapists and fitness trainers can work hand in hand, and how they can address an elderly client?
That partnership between physical therapy and personal training is vitally important. And it's come a long way. In 2011, I was at the NSCA National Conference, and I spoke with the PT that I was working with at the time. His name was Tony. He and I did a co-presentation on how personal trainers and physios, how physical therapists can work together to build a business model. And we got booed off stage. I mean, we had people literally got up and walked out of our session, and they're like, "This will never work," and they threw their stuff down and walked out. And this isn't like in the 1980s. Like this was 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was. Like this was in 2012 in Rhode Island, and it was just like I couldn't believe that we got that response, because Tony and I had been working together for years at that point. And there's always been this clash between personal trainers and physios, and you're going to steal my business. And, you know, when you go to physical therapy, you can't do personal training anymore. You only do physical therapy for 12 weeks. And then if you're lucky, they come back, and usually the physio will try to steal them away and train them on the side. It's garbage. It's really not, it's not what everybody thinks it is. And so we've kind of built the profession, and the gentleman I've worked with since 2013, Dan, he and I, Tony moved away. So Dan and I have developed a great relationship. He's rehabbed me through my hip surgeries, my wife through hers. Probably 80% of our clients have gone to see Dan. And we have a model where if I'm doing a strategy session and a first time sit down with a client, and I'm seeing, okay, they've had a shoulder replacement, it didn't take, they had to have a revision. I want to make sure I'm doing everything right with this client. I'm going to send them to go see Dan. Dan sees them once and just gives me a report that says, here's what I saw. We should do this. Don't do this. You know, progress with caution, but you're good to go. Or here's a major limitation we found. I want to see him again in 4 weeks. Let's work on the following. Don't do this. So basically the physical therapist will give me the guidelines, but I get to implement the plan. And so it's a great way for us to work together. And over, you know, almost a decade now of doing that with Dan, we've had the opportunity to broaden our horizons and our education level of working together with all the different individuals that we bring along. I learn every time I bring a client to him, and he's telling me about this new injury or this new strategy. And so I have that experience, that knowledge now that I get to implement with my clients. Because if you go into a physical therapy center and you come in here and you watch us all train, we're all doing the same stuff. They're doing deadlifts, so are we. They're doing rack pulls, so are we. They're doing band work, so are we. But if you look at physical therapists that are just trying to get a client's injury to not hurt anymore, and then physical therapists who are trying to improve their client's ability, two very different strategies, right? I'm over here on the performance side. I want my people to improve and to be better and to take their abilities to the next level. But if all you're trying to do is put a Band-Aid on it and say, let's just make your shoulder not hurt and success, that's not the philosophy that I want. So to answer your question, it very much can work together. You need to have a philosophy with a therapist that matches your philosophy of how you like to train. You need to work out a system together that will allow you to have feedback and communicate and share information to work well together to improve your client in a strategic, you know, progressive, a linear progression together. And that system can work exceptionally well, because the physical therapist will see 600, 700, 800 clients a year. We'll see 30, 40, right? And so we have an opportunity to affect a lot of people, but also to grow our business and to, you know, start a relationship that can be very successful for years or decades to come. But to have this system working well, this is the ultimate goal. You know, you get the right person for the job. If I try to rehab something and I don't know how to do it and I make the client worse, I injure the client, I have bad reputation, I have a blemish on my record, I lose my client, I don't make any income. Where if they go see Dan once, I put them in the right place at the right time with the right person. I got the right information that I needed. The plan has been laid out on how we're going to do it appropriately. We make that progress. Client loves both of us. Things go well. They refer their mom, their sister, their friend, and the system grows. This is part of a successful business model that ultimately changes lives and improves abilities. We're winning across the board.
Wow, you guys are visionaries. I mean, because right now in Mumbai, fitness trainers and physios are collaborating, and it's working really well.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
I'm surprised that people did not accept the idea just a few years ago.
It's still, there's still touchy emotions about that, and there's a lot of elitism you know, where I'm this elite level trainer, and what do you know, physiotherapist? And then the physios are
Oh.
like, you're just a trainer with a weekend certification. What do you know? And so we, you know, our profession, especially in America, we're very like, we're the best. And so we have each of these professions feel like they're the top of the chain, and they don't understand that we could work better together with this. Because I didn't go to school for physical therapy, but I took anatomy, and I took, you know, physiology, and I took basic, you know, anatomy, biomechanics. Like I know all the pieces, but I need your direction. But they also didn't get the extensive knowledge that I have in lifting and how to apply it and how to program design and how to correct and cue. And so, I mean, together we make a very good team. So it makes me very happy to hear that it's working, you know, there for you guys, and you're making great progress.
Yes.
That can be an example for the rest of us, for sure.
Thank you. And I also have observed that when I see your videos that you post on Instagram and on YouTube, you focus more on resistance training and lesser on cardio. So is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, it's like 60-40, you know, is our programming. We're a true strength and conditioning facility, so we do address both. But the way that my philosophy is, and the way that I like to program, is that whatever goal you come to me with, I have a bad knee, I want to lose body fat, I want to become a better golfer, my back is injured. Any of those four, if I make you stronger, you're that much more likely to achieve it quicker, right? Strength for me is the foundation for achieving whatever goal we're going to try to pursue. So no matter what the case, if I get you stronger, we have a greater likelihood of improving your lower back, making you a better golfer, fixing your shoulder, you know what I mean? So that is the foundation that I'm going to address with every single client right out of the gate. And then for 60% of our programming, and then for the next 40%, it can be a cardiovascular component, it can be a sports specific component, it can be a therapy component, it'll be whatever else the individual needs or demands based on the limitation of the training outcome. So I address that strength portion with all of our clients. I know we're getting a little bit closer based on that, and then we'll personalize it down a little bit from there. But we also do our strength training in like an agonist antagonist style format. So I'll have you do a landmine overhead press, and then a pivot point high pulley row, and then you'll do a split stance, split squat, then you'll do a loaded carry, then we'll do an overhead tricep extension and do some bicep curls, and then we'll cycle back to the top and do all that again. So while the chest and the triceps are active, the back and the biceps are resting. Once we transition to the lower body, the upper body's getting that break. And so with each one, we kind of undulate the area of focus, or which primary muscle groups are going to require the most oxygenated demand, right? Because we're working at a little higher tempo while we go exercise to exercise to exercise, we are elevating the resting heart rate in that cardiovascular component. And with each one, we're going to undulate it, where we're going to peak it and then recover a little and then peak it. So not high intensity intervals, but like moderate intensity intervals. We're simulating in a conditioning component there while strength training. So it's not as high intensity as a CrossFit or as a HIIT program, right? But it's on an elevation where when our clients get done, they're like, okay, this was a challenge. I feel a good pump. I feel strong, but I also am winded. I'm sweating a little bit. Like I have that elevation of my core temperature because of the tempo that we sent. Well, now let's go pull the sled and throw med balls and do some slams, and let's spike that and really get a big finisher or a big burnout at the end for 5 or 8 minutes, 10 minutes at the most, right? We'll really peak them and spike them. They go, okay, I got my cardiovascular component in there. But LSD, long, slow distance, any of that kind of stuff out the window. I know it doesn't have a place in what I'm doing in here. Off days, walking, hiking, all that great, all good. But for what we do in here, to me, there's so much more efficient abilities and programmings and valuable time that I can implement with my clients in that time. And I know I'm only going to get them twice a week for an hour, right? Or maybe 3 days a week for an hour. I need to maximize every minute of that time. And especially now with COVID, not to go on forever with this, but with COVID, I'll show you guys a quick glimpse over here. Like this.
Yes.
You see all of that? I mean, that's half my gym waiting by the front door to go outside, because we are not allowed to train indoors right now. So I have to be outside every
Oh,
day. So we bring all that equipment out, set it all up. We train, and then come back in. I'm also not allowed to exceed 12 people an hour, and I'm not allowed to carry over or have transitions between groups. So from 6 to 6:50, I have to hard stop at 6:50, send that group out, clean everything, and then the next group can come in. So every minute is just vitally important to make sure I'm maximizing every second that I have. We're doing as much
mm,
as we can, but I also have these new standards, these health regulations that I have to maintain, right?
mm-hmm.
So programming and efficiency, and I just did that talk last week about the waffle, right? The waffle program where it's like I've got compartments and time blocks to do each one. Like
Yeah.
we've
Mm-hmm.
really, more than ever, we've really had to program that way to be as efficient. So I can say
Mm-hmm.
I'm covering everything, but I have a dedicated amount of time to each one of those. I'm very long-winded.
Awesome.
I'm never going to give you like a 1 or 2 word answer.
Yeah, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
This is perfect. This is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I also know that you have an online program to help trainers increase their knowledge and expertise in training elderly adults. So could you please elaborate about that?
Sure. We're starting one today. So this today is week
Oh,
1 of an 8-week series that's built on physical limitations. And so we're going to introduce our blueprint today. Basically, it's six key areas of the body: hip, back, shoulder, wrist and hand, elbow, foot, and the knee. And each one of those, we're going to
mhm,
dedicate one day, about 75 minutes to each one. And I've got upwards of 16 to 20 exercises to show in each one of those how we're going to deal with the more common limitations of that joint or that area. So let's take the knee for
mhm,
issue. We have arthritis, you have tendonitis, bursitis, and any kind of reconstruction or rebuild or replacement. So we kind of address all that. We're going to address all the issues today. And then for the next 6 or 7 weeks, as we go through, we'll focus one whole day just on the knee and go through all these
mhm,
exercises. So it's just a huge list of stuff. And as you implement it, I'll be right here live demoing it all and teaching people how to do them, because it's the most common request I get. I have a client who, fill in the blank, has a bad knee, has a bad shoulder. What would I do? What should I do? So we built this whole model around that. And this is kind of a piggyback series that we do with our main certification course that goes out every March. We host that from March till April, and it's 10 weeks
mhm,
long, all online, and it's just geared towards working with older pops, from business to facility management and model, how we program, how we blueprint, how we do everything. And it's been a great course. We kind of started like not really knowing what we were doing 3 years ago. We just said, hey, let's host a one-day event and kind of show people what we do, and people loved it. And that turned into a webinar series, and that turned into a course, and now
mhm,
it's turned into 2021. We have a huge change and a whole new movement of this. We're kind of taking things to the next level. I don't want to give out too much on that because it's still in the works, but we're really excited where that's going.
mhm.
So trainingtheolderadult.com. I've got over 100 different videos on our YouTube channel too. They're all free on there. You guys feel free to hop on there and take a look. And the whole intention is to arm you trainers, right? To teach you trainers how to work with anybody that comes across your path. And if you don't know how to work with them, hopefully teach you a system like you were talking about with a physical therapist, to where you can
Mhm.
better educate and have good direction and be able to work with anyone who comes through the door.
Awesome. And so you also provide CECs with this, continuing
Absolutely.
education credits?
Mhm. Yeah,
And for which
everything we
organizations
host.
are they valid?
Yeah, everything we host has CEUs attached to it.
And which organizations are they valid for?
So the NSCA, basically their CEUs are accepted by all organizations. So we go with
Okay.
them as our primary, and then TOA, Training the Older Adult, we have our own CEU provider as well. So we offer, for those that get TOA certified, this course, we do an anatomy course as well. We have a business course that we do. We have a membership. So all of those have certain CEUs that come in that report back to that. But basically any organization, any accredited organization out there will accept NSCA CEUs, either as a professional development, self-development, or under their certified CEU approval courses.
Awesome. And Robert, is there anything else you would like to tell the audience?
I think, I mean, the primary thing that I always like to express to people is, and you and I have talked about this a few times, is like following your dharma, right? Following your purpose in
Yes.
life. And for a very long
Mm-hmm.
time, I tried to pursue being a strength coach and to train people for sports performance, because that had more prestige to it, right? If you were a strength coach
Mm-hmm.
or you're working with athletes, you were a better coach than if you were working with the general public. And I tried to force that for a while until I really embraced the idea that I'm not very good at that and I'm very good at this. And so I guess a lasting impression that I would like people to walk away with is to follow your efforts and your heart of what you feel like is you're really good at, and embrace that rather than, you know, what you feel like our standard or our society says you should be doing. Because working with older populations is not sexy, but it's so rewarding. Like there's so many stories I could tell you from I've got 80 clients I get to work with right now, and each one of them has a story of something that I've helped them with. I've a client last night that's sending me text messages saying like, I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, and now that we've been together here through COVID and all this too, it's just been a life changing. And those messages to me, I'm like, I made the right decision in making this transition. So though it may not be sexy, it may not be the most popular, like follow your life purpose and what you feel like you should be doing, what calls to you. And I, you know, I love to teach, I love to educate. And that's why I started the website, right, to educate. And so if you have these efforts that maybe it's just, you know, it's not this huge money maker for you yet or whatnot, but you love doing that, pursue that, because I know it's cliche, but it's like you'll never work a day in your life when you're doing what you love. And I truly believe that. And I never look at it when I wake up and I'm like, oh, I have to go to work today. I don't think that way, because I love everybody I work with. I'm in my environment, like, but I've had to make that happen. So I encourage everybody out there to follow that deeper intent of what you truly love with this profession, and make that happen, make that occur. And if there's anything I can do to help you along that path, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. And where can people reach out to you?
Trainingtheolderadult.com, or my email address is
Okay.
robertlinkul@gmail. Very simple.
Awesome. Well, Robert, thank you so much. And I really pray and hope that you keep inspiring other people, keep changing the lives of elderly people, and stay safe during this time of pandemic.
Yes, sir. You too. And thank you for having me on. Always good to see you. And we should do this every
Yes.
couple of months or every year or whatever you want to do. I love chatting with you, and I love getting
Oh,
to
yes. I'd
share.
love to do that because, yes,
We got
because
so much
I
we
mean,
can talk
along
about
with
here.
you, yes, exactly. And along with you, I've had other professors from different universities who said that if things work out well, they want to talk every 2 months or every month,
Nice.
something like that, because it's just about giving back to the fitness community, nothing else.
Absolutely. So put me on the list. I'm happy to do it. And I'm hoping one day to come
Oh,
live,
yes.
come there and see you and maybe present there and do a course or do something. I would love to
Yes.
come visit. So that'd be fun.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yes,
Excellent.
I'll see you someday here then.
Yes, sir. That'd be great.
Right. Thank you, and you have a great day.
Thank you, my friend. You too. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.